Okay, guys, so we're back with some more Chaos Zero Nightmare. Now, we're going to be getting into my 24-hour overview of Yuki, and this is going to be fixated on, obviously, synergies, her build, and really understanding if this is a character that you may want to pick up and use your summons for, and really, most importantly, who this type of character is for. Now, of course, with that, we have currently, as you can see on screen, it's a run that, unfortunately, the audio got corrupted, but I was like, there's no way I'm not showing this, all right? So this is actually the team comp I'm using right now: Ray, Veronica, and of course Yuki. And there's a lot of other setups that you can potentially do. But the main thing with this setup, and I will of course show you guys the gear for this, it's basically enabling the drawing mechanic, but also generating AP. So that's something that like really helps us out a ton. But the other thing that I think is a really important thing with understanding how you can really amplify Yuki is really taking advantage of the vulnerable debuff, right? So there's so many different ways that you can get that. And I actually specifically decided to get mine on my Flash Slash. I know people have other methods and other strategies, but that's the beauty in this game, is that there's so many different ways that you can play. Now, within this one turn, considering that I am using like a damage amper like Ray, I'm going to be able to actually do about 10k damage in this one turn, which is pretty insane. So I actually go for using the Flash Slash first, but I am going to be actually amplifying the Overwhelm because the Overwhelm has 3 hits, and I'll technically have the vulnerable proc after the initial damage happens. So I want that to be able to, like you can see here, rip through all this HP on these opponents. Now, mind you, this is the basin, I think floor 9, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty high, right? And we actually crit there too. So also getting crits is just kind of crazy. But that alone, 10.5k damage turn 1, right? Now, I know you guys are probably wondering how we got to that end result, and I want to give the disclaimer: my builds are not perfect, and there's still a lot of different combinations and things that would make my build the most optimal. But there's basically 2 different ways that you can look at Yuki. You can try to build Yuki to be more self-sufficient, or you can really try to build her to synergize with a team, right? And either way, you kind of want her to synergize with a team anyway, but I'll kind of explain that a little bit more. Now, the thing is that like with the build that you guys seen in the clip, this one definitely very, very lucky run. Even though I didn't get the accessory, I did get the replica core, which gives you when drawing your own attack card by an ability, that card is 50% damage amount for 1 turn. And then I also have the fragment of the empty void from completing it, which at the start of the battle discards 3 cards, and then you can draw equal to that number. Now, some of the highlight cards are her really important cards that you really want to pay attention to: Prepare to Subdue. You want to pay attention to Flash Slash. And then, of course, Iceberg, I think, is very, very important if you want to AoE. I personally definitely would say that cards outside of her innate cards, Overwhelm is so busted on her if you can get any sort of Nephilim or any like divine like you can get a crazy epiphany on this. This is a absolutely monstrous card. Even with the exhaust, like it is still a very, very good card. But I will say those are definitely like some of the big cards that you want to pay attention to, as well as the Trickery Strike. Now, the ideal variation of this is you want the one that allows you, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to activate the effect that you want in your hand, right? The random one is not that great because, again, it's random. But if you can pick the one that you want, that is great. If it has a retain effect on it, that's still a good one to keep. Same thing with the Flash Slash. The one that I have with the vulnerable on it, this is what's going to allow her to be more self-sufficient. And the thing is, though, is that you have to remember the actual order of how this is applied. It's damage, then vulnerable procs, right? So this is why I still have to have a follow-up card, because if it had been vulnerable procs first and then damage, this would just been absolutely uber busted. But it's damage, then vulnerable procs, right? But it still works extremely well. I do have a triple Iceberg Cleave. I know somebody's going to ask, like, what the heck? But yeah, that was just the options the game gave me. It wasn't even really so much I was trying to chase that. But yeah, that's really like all it is in a nutshell. And this, again, is just really looking to putting her in a team comp where she's able to have someone else draw her cards or help her with drawing her cards, because I don't have a ton of the Prepare to Subdue, right? But I have another build variation right? Where I have 3 prepare to subdues. And then I also have another one where I have 2 prepare subdues that also generate AP. This one I definitely would say is really, really nice in terms of being able to utilize the cards and being able to afford to utilize the cards. So this completely knocks out the whole, you got to have Mika to be able to upkeep her. No, you don't. You literally just need to get the cards, or lucky enough to get the cards that can help you with generating AP. This is not the only character that can help you do this. Veronica can also do this as well. And we'll talk about her in a second, because I think she's also probably one of the best in slot, like, combatant partners that you can put with her. But this definitely is huge. Now, again, there's a lot of different variations in this, because unfortunately this prepare to subdue doesn't have the retain effect, whereas the other one that I'm using has the retain effect, right? So I'm able to, like, off rip, when I get these, I can just hold on to them and use them how I want. Or like, for example, this one is like, I know when I get it, I do generate AP. So there's so many different things that you can kind of do. And the unfortunate things with some of these builds is that the damage cards themselves weren't that significant or extravagant. So it's still a work in progress, right? If anybody has the perfect build, they are extremely lucky, because I feel like there's definitely a lot of different things that you're trying to get, but also not trying to make the deck so big at the same time, right? Even like with this one, this is a little bit more like single target focused, I guess, but it doesn't really have like any core identities. The prepare to subdue is like, okay, like it's not even one of the better ones that you would want. And then the Forbidden Portrait of Fury is great. Definitely good when you have high quantity of cards in your hand, which typically will happen when you're using draw units or draw setups. And so, yeah, those are definitely like, you know, some of the builds that I like have been messing around with. Definitely the dopamine injector is great on Yuki. So when you draw an ability, plus 20% damage amount for 1 turn, max 2 times per turn. And then the superconductive protein. So at the start, change the cost of 1 card in your hand for 0 to 1. It's not bad. Definitely helps you in the run, right? Now, outside of that, okay, real quick, just to kind of highlight the real important things. This isn't a Veronica showcase, but I at least want to talk about that part because it is important to note. You can see, yes, I do have a repose triple Veronica build right now. It is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, 2 of them have AP increase. The other one does not. That's perfectly fine. We don't care. I would say if you can at least get 2 repose cards, that's like kind of the start to the build. But this is probably one of my favorite ones so far. Definitely don't need all these other cards. Like if you can get rid of majority of these cards, like if I could, I would just get rid of majority of these cards, because the smaller the deck, actually this would have been much better. But again, how many runs are you going to get where you get this, right? Like that's a really, really tough thing to do. So either way, we're still making it work regardless. And then also the Source of the Forbidden is great because when hit, it inflicts 1 random effects among vulnerable, weakened, or impaired to the attacker and is 3 times per turn. So that's a really, really big thing with Veronica if you're really just trying to like have Yuki shine. Otherwise, firing preparation is still great because that's follow-up damage in between turns. And yeah, so that's like really the biggest thing that I'm enabling right there. And then of course with the Ray, very simple 7-card build, nothing extravagant. All I really care about, if I could make another build, it would be to duplicate the snack time. And then I would also say maybe probably having another Predator's Blade. But that really would just be more so, like I said, about the snack time, just because that would allow me to get more cards into my hand. And then, of course, if I need the heal, like depending on the run and what RNG gives me, I just kind of select off of that. But yeah, that's basically what I'm using right now. Let's go back to Yuki. Let's actually talk about potential. I would say that this character absolutely needs to have her potentials, right? Now, as you can see, I have a basic card. I have a summon to a common. Again, this is also just kind of what I have on hand as far as resources. Absolutely, you want all of it, right? Like I don't think there's anything that you don't want just because of like the variation in potential builds that you may get. I'm kind of using some of everything, but absolutely you need these 2 last nodes. You know, that really is going to help you out significantly with just kind of giving you that additional, I would say kind of extra oomph to your modifiers. And then of course, getting that extra crit chance is going to be pretty huge as well. So I'm running her on 37%, which is not that great. It's okay. But again, it's one of those things where the more times that you can hit 2 within a run, the more chances you have to possibly proc those crits. So lower crit chances on more hits is better. But if you're running like, say, like the cars that don't give you a ton of hits, then you want that crit chance a little bit higher. But the thing is that I am focusing that, right? As far as the memory fragments, we're currently running her on a Blackwing Scarab and, of course, the Executioner's Tool. So we have 769 on the attack, which is really solid. Again, trying to get those subs. You can't really min-max just yet, just because like this piece is actually like insane, not gonna lie. So extra damage, crit damage, and crit chance, really, really good card in terms of subs with order damage. And then we have the attack on the Scarab. The main thing with this too is that like the Scarab is going to affect more for single target cards. The Blackwing is just really like good generally speaking, but I would say you're fine with just running the Blackwing in the Executioner's Tool and then just making sure that you're hitting those stat markers so that she can be as effective as possible, right? So again, in terms of, I know somebody's going to ask about the order set. I'm really not too into using the 4-piece set on her. Just because I feel like I can get a lot more value out of the 2-piece bonus sets. So that's what I've been doing with her, at least personally, right? Now, the Manifest Ego, I don't have any into her. And I think that also does play like a pretty big like part in like a lot of units. I'd say, like, again, I'm doing this without any investment dupe-wise. So I feel like she's pretty solid. Granted, she would obviously be much better if she had dupes into her. But yeah, that's currently what we got going on for Yuki. Oh, 2 last things, though, before we move on. I don't want to forget this. Partners, okay? I am using Westamakat. If you don't have Westamakat, the best in slot, and now I have an excuse, okay? Because I showed chat this, and nobody believes me, but for some god-awful reason, the game does not want to give me Lillian. If you don't have Lillian, or if you do have Lillian, that is going to be the free-to-play alternative to Westamakat. So Westamakat, I did test her out with that. She's great, especially at base. But if you can get a Lillian, and especially a maxed out Lillian, then that's chef's kiss. It works just as well. And I would say that obviously it's just going to be better because it's more easily obtainable, except for me, right? I can't get 1 copy. So yeah, that definitely is kind of that, right? And then of course, other synergies. I just want to touch on that real quick. She absolutely can work with Mika. That's just a no-brainer. More AP Gen is great if you just want to kind of be a little bit more rambunctious with her cards. She does work with Nia. Personally, Nia's a little bit weird to play with her, but does work. I mean, like, and it's not that she's weird. You just have to be conscious. You have to think a lot more when playing with Nia. I do like Nia a bit. I just prefer some of the other play styles. So again, I'm using Ray, or Leah also is great with her as well. I did a couple of chaos runs with her Leah. Absolutely insane when they can get going. But yeah, definitely another character that can work. And then of course a character a lot of people have, Cassius also works with her, and as well as Selena. So you have a bit of options, but I would definitely say, like, I think that like my top 3 would be between Orlia, Ray, and Veronica. I think that those are like personally my top 3 pairings with her. And then maybe you can throw in like Nia, Mika, like whoever you may have on the outside or the extra, but like those are like my top 3, I would say. So yeah, that's just kind of that. Now moving on to the more important thing here, which is the pros and cons. And we're going to do this via the simulation and chaos comparison, and really talking about with this season, the Forbidden Catalyst. Now I want to actually jump into this, and I want to like just kind of point out a couple of different things. So first and foremost, number 1, if you go into the chaos, Laboratory 0 is not the attribute of Yuki. So just in terms of your runs, just starting there, you're never going to see like her cream of the crop peak damage in there because she's not attribute advantage here. Now, the other thing that is really important, and what I've noticed in a lot of different team comps, is that a lot of the problem isn't so much just Yuki, it's more so the supports that are being brought along with her. Now, it is really important, depending on what setup you have or what you're doing, you have to make up for whatever it is that you're lacking. So, for example, if like you're doing Orlia with Yuki and you're really wanting to do that, remember the vulnerability build for Orlia is not a heal efficient build. So a lot of the times you have to bring someone like Ray or Mika or someone else to help you with supplementing those heals, because otherwise, if you just are going in there with trying to just have her be vulnerable and Yuki do damage, the run's going to go really, really bad if you don't have that additional support really focused on healing. Now, the other thing too with that is that I feel like a lot of the times when people are doing their runs, they're trying to build all three characters at the same time. That is just not efficient, and it's going to make your runs feel worse when you're trying to do that. Now, the thing is too, that I also feel like is really important, and this is not really so much a variable that players can control nearly as much. The only thing that you really can do is to try go higher as much as fast as possible. It's actually your save data value tier and the chance of your rare fate occurrences happening. One thing that I will say that is a con is just simply the fact that your potential rolls of what abilities you get or epiphanies you have happen, they just could not happen. So like, for example, you could not get your prepare to subdue to the very end. That can happen. Or if you're using Veronica, you just don't get her repose card till the very end, right? And I would also argue that, yes, that is something that definitely can make it much harder running Yuki, is if you're not able to enable her gimmick at all. That definitely plays a huge part in the success of these runs. But I will say, if you're able to get those going, then usually your runs are pretty safe and successful. Now, the other thing is too, that I think is really important if you need to, running a unit that enables or gives you some sort of like damage value to void. You'll notice those people will have a lot easier time, like the guys that got Kayron, or they're building damage rays or got the Rens and stuff like that. That definitely is something that helps them, because this is technically the City of the Mist enemies. And so it's the same mid boss and like, or exterior and interior boss. So yeah, she just doesn't necessarily have the more optimal setup for this specific run. She can be of value to it though. I will say that, right? Like she can be great with the multi-hitting, because she can hit multiple times at a really, really low cost, and it's all AoE. So it's not like she's terrible in here. I would not say that she's terrible in here, but is she the best at running the chaos mode, or like what we consider the zero system or forbidden catalyst? No, she's not, right? I think that is just something that we just got to clear the air on. Now, outside of that, okay, when we're going and talking about simulation, anyone that's saying she's bad in simulation is capping. Okay, because she actually is extremely good. And granted, this rotation of Dimensional Twilight definitely does cater to her a little bit. But even if you were to run her in a team comp where she's not attribute advantage, she's still going to be able to deal pretty solid damage, right? Is it going to be astronomical damage? Not necessarily, right? But is it still good damage, right? I mean, again, 10.5k in one turn, I feel like that's respectable, and that can't really qualify you as necessarily as trash. I think a lot of it also is even with my setup, I'm not even fully enabling her nearly as much as I possibly could, because again, there's so many more vulnerable procs I could be getting. I could be trying to also mark. I could be trying to get morale. There's a lot of other enablers that would really allow me to take that character to even higher heights. I just got to go through higher tiers and hope to God that I get some better builds. But nonetheless, I will say that with the Dimensional Twilight, even pushing into like, I think currently I'm on floor 9 right now. It's not even my first team that's the issue. It's really my second team, and I just rebuilt my Orlia. So I'm probably going to redo this on stream and then push into 10. But other than that, that first team is guaranteed to be dead anywhere from 1 to 2 turns. Like, it is absolutely busted. So yeah, I mean, like, I personally don't see how she's bad when it comes to this specific content, when this is the only other content that you're doing. And then the other content is like your weekly content and training content. And I mean, she's going to do great at that stuff. And I would even argue even same thing with like the weekly. I mean, like if you're fighting Judas, I mean, piercing builds are just better there. She doesn't have a piercing build, unfortunately. So that's just kind of that. So I guess maybe that can be weighted against her. But I would say, truthfully speaking, Yuki just requires a ton of investment. And I guess that kind of goes into the question, is she beginner friendly, or what type of person or player is Yuki for? Now, I personally would say that Yuki is a really fun character. I think she's for the type of player that's looking to have actually quite a bit of cards possibly in their hand, but they like to really try to enable the fact of using a ton of different cards at once, because I think that's the thing they tried to go for with her, was like enabling like overall damage versus just all outright damage. And so I feel like with that being the case, she does have a really, really high potential, or ceiling potential, if you have the right enabled stuff, right? Like if you have the vulnerability procs, if you're getting morale, right? Like, and from what I've seen is that she can get vulnerability herself. You can get vulnerability from your support. You can get morale. Like there's so many different things that you can do, but it's just the time put in getting lucky enough to get those builds. And I think a lot of players, they come from games where building and investing and getting things may be a lot easier. So I'm not sure how willing some players may be in terms of like trying to really go through, for run to run to get those things. And that may even go into like a bigger thing where they may have to kind of tweak how, it is like the chances of you actually getting those things to proc. Because I will say in some runs, it does feel like, does this actually exist, right? But even just in terms of her being beginner friendly, I think one of the biggest things is that if you're running her as a beginner, you have two characters that literally work extremely well with her. It's freaking Mika and Ray. They're both free. So I can't even really sit here and be like, oh, well, free to plays or new players are just going to struggle if they go Yuki. No, they're not. Like the thing is that she's going to be great. They're also going to have the chance to actually invest her from the ground up. So they're going to be able to scale her throughout content versus like for some of us that are already at X point, we're trying to bring a content into already scaled content. So I think that honestly, she can be very, very fun for beginners. And just in terms of like if she's beginner friendly or not, I think you get two of the characters that allow her to be just off-rip usable, which is Mika and Ray. And then of course, if you get the other characters, they just kind of enable her even more. So I think that definitely for the type of character she definitely is a little bit more techie than like a Haru, in my opinion. So she's not outright beginner friendly, but I definitely think that she still can work for beginners. So yeah, that's basically everything with Yuki, man. I don't really have much more to say. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more on the panel podcast. I'm kind of interested to know how you guys feel, because I just feel like, again, even for me, even with doing like all the testing I've done so far, I feel like there's still so much that I can pull out of her. It's just getting the right setup, which I would argue definitely means that she's a lot more technical or requires a lot more thought process, which is definitely going to affect like what's more efficient to do. So yeah, I mean, if we're just arguing semantics of that, yeah, she probably is a little bit of a harder character to build, but I don't think that she's necessarily a bad character by no means. Is she like cream of the crop or top tier? Maybe not in terms of just like raw out damage, just out the box. But I think that if you really take the time to invest in and build her, she could be actually a really, really solid unit. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's going to be that with this one, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the very next one.